Okay, all right. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. So today we continue with the reading from the great disciples of the Buddha, and today is actually the final part of Venerable Sariputta's life. Okay, so when we finish the story on Venerable Sariputta, whenever we have a book reading, we will continue with the life story of Venerable Mahamoggallana, who is the other chief disciple of the Buddha. Okay, so the further shore, the last debt paid. We now come to the year of the master, the Buddha's parinibbana, his complete passing away. And the Blessed One had spent the rainy season at Beluvagama, a village near Vesali. And when the retreat was over, the retreat means the rainy season. So those days, because when it is a rainy season, it's very difficult to travel from different place to different place to teach and spread the Dhamma. And so the Buddha said, okay, for this rainy season, which is about 3 months, we'll stay put in a particular place. We can teach there, but we won't travel. So when it's rainy season, they call it rains retreat. So it's not necessarily like what we think of, like, these 10-day retreats that we have and things like that. But it's more like just not traveling from place to place, but stay put. Rainy season, rains retreat, they call it, okay? So when the rains retreat was over, the Buddha left that place and returned by stages. So obviously they travel by foot. So it takes a while. So usually they'll go from place to place, spend the night, and then go again, and then spend the night and things like that. So return by stages to Savatthi, arriving back at the Jetavana monastery. And there the elder Sariputta, Marshal of the Dhamma, paid homage to the Blessed One and went to his day quarters. When his own disciples had saluted him and left, he swept the place and spread his leather mat. Then, having rinsed his feet, he sat down cross-legged and entered into the fruition attainment of arahantship. At the time predetermined by him, he arose from the meditation, and this thought occurred to him: do the enlightened ones pass away into final nibbana first, or do the chief disciples do so? And he saw that it is the chief disciples who pass away first. So Venerable Sariputta had this thought, and he had this knowledge. So not only the Gautama Buddha, but also the previous Buddhas, that their chief disciples will pass away before them. So thereupon he considered his own life force and saw that its residue would sustain him only 1 more week. So he saw that he had this knowledge, he had this ability, had this skill. Venerable Sariputta, he could see that he himself will pass away in 1 week's time. So then he considered, where shall I attain final nibbana? And he thought, Rahula attained final nibbana among the deities of the 33, and the elder Anya Kondanya at the Chadanta Lake in the Himalayas. Where then shall I pass away? While thinking this over repeatedly, he remembered his mother. So if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, we read about Venerable Sariputta's family, how he influenced and guided his siblings, brothers and sisters, to join the order of the Sangha. And his mother was not, was quite upset, doesn't have faith in the triple gem, and was not very happy about that. Yeah, so he suddenly remembered his own mother, and the thought came to him. Although she is the mother of 7 arhats, so other than Venerable Sariputta himself, he had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. They all became arhats, but she herself has no faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Has she the supportive conditions in her to acquire that faith, or has she not? So it's interesting, for one to have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, it's a matter of also, do they have the supportive conditions so that they can develop that faith? So if they've not cultivated enough in the past to have supportive conditions that will support them to have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, then it is difficult. It is difficult for someone to develop that faith. Yeah, so those of us who have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, you can say we are lucky, but also it's due to our cultivation in the past that has created this supportive condition so that we can continue on in our practice, so we can come into the contact with the teachings, develop our faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then continue on. So it's an ongoing process. Okay. So investigating the matter, he discerned that she had the supportive conditions for the path of stream entry. So at least stream entry, Sotapanna, which is good because that's, an entry into at least to walk the path. Yeah. So then he asked himself, through whose instruction can she win to the penetration of truth? So this is interesting that Venerable Sariputta thought process was stage by stage. So first he thinks, he doesn't start from the thinking at all, it's my mother and I am responsible to bring her to have faith, and do you see? So his thought process is very impersonal. Of course, there is that, mother and son bond, but also because he is an arahat, he attained fruition of arahatship. So there is no longer that impersonalization. There is just this seeing of, okay, does she have the supportive conditions? Yes. Okay, then who would she, through whom would she be able to listen and then understand? So it's a very different kind of, there is no longer that attachment. There is just the process of identification, so to speak. So he asked himself, through whose instruction can she win to the penetration of truth? And he saw that it could not come about through anyone else's instruction in the Dhamma, but his own. So then he saw that, oh, it's himself, not anyone else. And following upon that, there came the thought, if I now remain indifferent, people will say, Sariputta has been a helper to so many others. On the day, for instance, when he preached the discourse to the deities of tranquil mind, a large number of devas attained arhatship, and still more of them penetrated to the first three paths. And on other occasions, there were many who attained to stream entry, and there were thousands of families who were reborn in heavenly worlds after the elder had inspired them with joyous confidence in the triple gem. Yet, despite this, he cannot remove the wrong views of his own mother. Thus, people may speak of me. Therefore, I shall free my mother from her wrong views and shall attain final nibbana in the very chamber where I was born. So he then decided to go back to visit his mother and finally pass away there. And having made that decision, he thought, this very day I shall ask the master's permission and then leave for Nalaka. Nalaka is the place where his mother is. And calling the elder Chunda, who was his attendant, he said, "Friend Chunda, please ask our group of 500 bhikkhus to take their bowls and robes, for I wish to go to Nalaka." So this would be all of Venerable Sariputta's students. So they usually travel together with their teacher. And so the elder Chunda did as he was bidden. So the bhikkhus put their lodgings in order, took their bowls and robes, and presented themselves before Elder Sariputta. He, for his own part, had tidied up his living quarters and swept the place where he used to spend the day. Then, standing at the gate, so this would be the gate of where they were living in Jetavana. So he stood at the gate, he looked back at the place thinking, this is my last sight of it. There will be no more coming back. Then together with the 500 bhikkhus, he went to the Blessed One, the Buddha, saluted him and spoke, "O Lord, may the Blessed One permit, may the Exalted One consent. The time has come for me to attain final nibbana. I have relinquished the life force. Lord of the world, O greatest sage, I soon shall be released from life. Going and coming shall be no more. This is the last time I worship you. Short is the life that now remains to me, but 7 days from now, and I shall lay this body down, throwing the burden off. Grant it, O Master, give permission, Lord. At last the time has come for my nibbana. Now I have relinquished the will to live." Now here we have to understand that Venerable Sariputta is kind of not saying like, with this last sentence, don't get it wrong by saying, well, when you say I have relinquished the will to live, it's like he's saying, I don't want to live anymore, I want to die now. It's not that way. Through his skill, his ability, his meditative power, so to speak, he saw how much he only had 7 days left. So he was kind of, in a way, asking permission, well, not to say asking permission from the Buddha to let him pass away, but in a sense also just to let the Buddha know, in a sense that ask permission to pass away somewhere else, so to speak, because the Buddha is still the master, teacher. So he's kind of, Venerable Sariputta in a way is kind of asking permission to pass away, not at Jetavana, so to speak. Okay, so now says the text, if the enlightened one were to have replied, "You may attain final nibbana," hostile sectarians would say that he was speaking in praise of death. And if he had replied, "Do not attain final nibbana," they would say that he extolled the continuation of the round of existence. So the Buddha didn't say, okay, I give you permission to attain final Nibbana, or no, I don't give you permission. He just asked, therefore the Blessed One did not speak in either way, but he just asked, where will you attain final Nibbana? So Sariputta replied, in the Magadha country, in the village called Nalaka, in the chamber where I was born. Then the Blessed One said, do, Sariputta, what you think kindly. But now your elder and younger brethren in the Sangha will no longer have the chance to see a bhikkhu like you. Give them one last discourse on the Dhamma. So the Buddha was also very compassionate. He knew what was Venerable Sariputta's wish, but he was also compassionate that to kind of request from Venerable Sariputta, don't just go like that, at least the rest of the Sangha here, give them another opportunity, one last discourse on the Dhamma, one last sutta, one last teaching before you go. Yeah. So the great elder then gave a discourse in which he displayed all his wondrous powers, rising to the loftiest heights of truth, descending to the mundane truth, rising again, and again descending. He expounded the Dhamma directly and with similes. And when he had ended his discourse, he paid homage at the feet of the master. Embracing his legs, he said, so that I might worship these feet, I have fulfilled the 10 perfections throughout an incalculable period and 100,000 aeons. So what he's trying to say is, just for me to fulfill my wish to become a chief disciple, I had practiced this much through this period of time. And my heart's wish has found fulfillment. And from now on, there will be no more contact or meeting. That intimate connection is now severed. So remember, we talked about dependent origination and how contact comes to be. That's what he's trying to explain here. There's no more. I shall soon enter the city of Nibbana, the unaging, undying, peaceful, blissful, heart-assuaging, and secure, which has been entered by many hundreds of thousands of Buddhas. If any deed of or word of mine did not please you, O Lord, may the Blessed One forgive me. It is now time for me to go. Now, once before, the Buddha had answered this when he said, there is nothing, be it in deeds or words, for which I should have to reproach you, Sariputta. For you are learned, Sariputta, of great wisdom, of broad and bright wisdom, of quick, keen, and penetrative wisdom. So this sentence has been mentioned before in a number of suttas, how the Buddha described Sariputta's wisdom. So now he answered in the same way, I forgive you, Sariputta, said, but there was not a single word or deed of yours that was displeasing to me. Do now, Sariputta, what you think kindly. And from this, we see that on those few occasions when the master seemed to reproach his chief disciple, it was not that he was displeased with him in any way, but rather he was pointing out another approach to a situation, another way of viewing the problem. So immediately after the master had given his permission and Sariputta had risen from paying homage at his feet, the great earth cried out, and with a single huge tremor shook to its watery boundaries. It was as though the great earth wished to say, though I bear these girdling mountains, ranges with Mount Meru, the encircling mountain walls and the Himalayas, I cannot sustain on this day so vast an accumulation of virtue. Just a little bit descriptive here. And mighty thunder split the heavens, a vast cloud appeared, and heavy rain poured down. Okay. Then the Blessed One thought, I shall now permit the Master of the Dhamma, permit Venerable Sariputta, to depart. And he rose from the seat of the Dharma, went to his perfume cell, and there stood on the jewel slab. 3 times Sariputta circumambulated the cell, keeping it to his right, and paid reverence at 4 places. So traditionally, when we circumambulate object of veneration, so it can be a shrine, can be a stupa, can be Bodhi tree, etc., etc. Usually we circumambulate clockwise. So we keep the object of veneration on our right. So Venerable Sariputta paid homage to the Buddha again by circumambulating the Buddha's cell, place where he rested, and then paid reverence at the 4 directions, 4 places. And this thought was in his mind. It was an incalculable period, and 100,000 aeons ago, that I prostrated at the feet of the Buddha Anumadasi and made the aspiration to see you. This aspiration has been realized, and I have seen you. At the first meeting, it was my first sight of you. Now it is my last. And there will be none in the future. And with raised hands, joined in salutation, he departed, going backwards until the Blessed One was out of sight. And yet again, the great earth, unable to bear it, trembled to its watery boundaries. The Blessed One then addressed the bhikkhus who surrounded him. Go, bhikkhus, he said, accompany your elder brother. At these words, all the 4 assemblies of devotees at once went out of Jetavana, leaving the Blessed One there alone. The citizens of Savatthi also, having heard the news, went out of the city in an unending stream, carrying incense and flowers in their hands, and with their hair wet, the sign of mourning, they followed the elder, lamenting and weeping. Sariputta then admonished the crowd, saying, "This is a road that none can avoid." So when you say this is the road that none can avoid, it's the road of when someone departs and know that you won't see them again, kind of thing. It's a road of separation, so to speak. So this or birth, death, what he's trying to say, all these things that we as human beings or as beings in samsara, or even we cannot avoid separation. So that's what he's trying to say. This road of separation, none can avoid. And so he asked them to return. And to the monks who had accompanied him, he said, "You may turn back now. Do not neglect the master. Do not neglect Buddha." Thus he made them go back, and with only his own group of disciples, he continued on his way. Yet still some of the people followed him, lamenting, "Formerly, our noble monk went on journeys and returned, but this is a journey without return." To them the elder said, "Be heedful, friends. Of such nature indeed are all things that are formed and conditioned." So again, he said, anything that's conditioned, there will be separation. And he made them turn back. During his journey, Sariputta spent one night wherever he stopped, and thus for 1 week he favored many people with a last sight of him. Reaching Nalaka village in the evening, he stopped near a banyan tree at the village gate. And it happened that at the time, a nephew of the elder, a nephew of his, Uparevata by name, had gone outside the village. And there he saw Sariputta. He approached the elder, saluted him, and remained standing. Elder asked him, "Is your grand aunt at home?" So grand aunt would be Venerable Sariputta's mother. "Yes, Venerable Sir," he replied. "Then go and announce our coming," said the elder. "And if she asks why I have come, tell her that I shall stay in the village for 1 day, and ask her to prepare my birth chamber and provide lodgings for 500 bhikkhus." So his nephew Uparavata went to his grand-aunt and said, "Grand-aunt, my uncle has come." "Where is he now?" she asked. "At the village gate." "Is he alone or has someone else come with him?" "He has come with 500 bhikkhus." And when she asked him, "Why has he come?" he gave her the message. So the message was that he shall stay in the village. Venerable Sariputta will stay in the village for 1 day, yeah, and prepare his chamber and lodgings for the other bhikkhus. Okay. So then she thought, why does he ask me to provide lodgings for so many? After becoming a monk in his youth, does he want to be a layman again in his old age? But anyway, she arranged the birth chamber for the elder and lodgings for the bhikkhus and had the torches lit and then sent for Venerable Sariputta. So then Venerable Sariputta, accompanied by the bhikkhus, then went up to the terrace of the house and entered his birth chambers. And after sitting down, he asked the bhikkhus to go to their quarters. And they had hardly left when a grave illness, dysentery is those days quite, well, because the medicine of those days is not so what's the word? High tech. So when people when people get dysentery, it's very difficult for them to recover, so to speak. So then all of a sudden he had dysentery, which fell upon the elder, fell upon him, and he felt severe pains. When one pail was brought in, another was carried out. So this is actually not a very good sign. And the Brahmin woman thought, so the Brahmin woman would be Venerable Sariputta's mother. So she thought, the news of my son is not good. And she stood leaning by the door of her own room. And then it happened, the text tells us that the 4 great divine kings asked themselves, so where may he now be dwelling, the master of the Dhamma? So the 4 great divine kings in the heavenly realms, they asked themselves. And they perceived that he was at Nalaka, in his birth chamber, lying on the bed of his final passing away. And then they said, let us go for a last sight of him. When they reached the birth chamber, they saluted the elder and remained standing. So Venerable Sariputta then asked, who are you? And then they said, we are the great divine kings, Venerable Sir. Why have you come? And then they said, we want to attend on you during your illness. Let it be, said Sariputta. There is an attendant here. You may go. So when they had left, there came in the same manner Sakka. Sakka is the king of, I can't remember now whether it's Tusita or Tavatimsa. Anyway, he's considered one of the or is it the 32 realms? Okay, I'm very bad at the realms kind of thing. But yeah, he's the king of the devas in one of the higher realms. He came. And after him, Mahabrahma. Mahabrahma would be the in the so Brahma realm would be the formless realms. I could be wrong, but yeah, one of the higher realms. So they came one after another to visit Venerable Sariputta. And all of them, Venerable Sariputta dismissed them in the same way. So then his mother, the Brahmin woman, seeing the coming and going of these, great kings of the heavenly realms, yeah, she asked herself, who could they have been who paid homage to my son and then left? And she went to the door of the elder's room and asked the Venerable Chunda. Venerable Chunda is Venerable Sariputta's attendant. So she asked Venerable Chunda for news about Venerable Sariputta's condition. And Chunda conveyed the inquiry to the elder, telling him the great Upasika, referring to his mother, lay devotee. Upasika is another term for lay devotee. So he's trying to tell that, she has come. And then Sariputta said to his mother, why have you come at this unusual hour? It's probably in the middle of the night or something, yeah? To see you, dear, she replied. Tell me, who were those who came first? The 4 great divine kings, Upasika. Are you then greater than they? She asked. They are like temple attendants, said the elder. Ever since our master took rebirth, they have stood guard over him with swords in hand. After they had left, who was it that came then? It was Sakka, the king of the Devas. Are you then greater than the king of the Devas? He is like a novice who carries a bhikkhu's belongings, answered Sariputta. When our master returned from the heaven of the 33, Sakka took his bow and robe and descended to earth together with him. So he's like trying to describe how these great kings of the different realms, their role with reverence to the Buddha, how it is like. And when Sakka had gone, who was it that came after him, filling the room with his radiance? Upasika, that was your own Lord and Master, Mahabrahma. So because she practiced Brahmanism, to them, to Brahmins, they consider their foremost master as Mahabrahma, kind of like God kind of thing, yeah, or creator God kind of thing. So then she's like, then are you greater, my son, than my Lord Mahabrahma? So what she's trying to say is, those of us who practice Brahmanism, we pray to Mahabrahma, and Mahabrahma came to pay you a visit. So are you even greater than who I worship? Is what she's trying to say. And she said, yes. Then he replied, yes, Upasika. On the day when our master was born, it is said that 4 Mahabrahmas received the great being in the golden net. Upon hearing this, the Brahmin woman thought, if my son's power is such as this, what must be the majestic power of my son's master and Lord? And while she was thinking this, suddenly rapture and joy arose in her, suffusing her entire body. The elder thought, rapture and joy have arisen in my mother. Now is the time to preach the Dhamma to her. So very interestingly, he didn't, up till now, didn't preach any Dhamma, although he already knew that she had the supportive conditions to take refuge and have faith in the Triple Gem and also enter into Srimantri. He wait and wait for the ripening time and the supportive conditions to arise before preaching the Dhamma. And he had this wisdom and this ability to recognize that. So then he said, what was it you were thinking about, Upasika? I was thinking, she replied, if my son had such virtue, what must be the virtue of his master? So what must be the virtue of the Buddha? So Sariputta answered, at the moment of my master's birth, at his great renunciation of worldly life, on his attaining enlightenment, and at his first turning of the Dhamma wheel. So the main milestones, how to say, significant time. Yeah, and each of these significant time in the Buddha's life, there is a stupa to commemorate that. So the location. So the birthplace of the Buddha in Lumbini, there's a whole monument park there. And then where he renunciated worldly life, this would be close to where he grew up. I don't know if there's a stupa there though. But on it, he's attaining enlightenment, that's Bodh Gaya. So there is a whole park and the main temple there, where pilgrims go all the time. At his first turning of the Dhamma wheel, so that is in Deer Park in Sarna. There is a very big stupa there. I think it's called Dhammik stupa. Very big, very, very big. So all these significant milestones in the Buddha's life, there is a kind of a stupa or monument to commemorate that. Many others as well. And also later on, during the time of King Ashoka, he also built what's called the Ashoka pillar. So it's like a pillar, and then you see a wheel of the Dhamma, and then a lion at the top, I think. Okay. So on all these occasions, the 10,000-fold world system quaked and shook. None is there who equals him in virtue, in concentration, or in collectedness, in wisdom, in deliverance, and in the knowledge and vision of deliverance. And he then explained to her in details the words of homage, which is what we normally recite, Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho, so the 9 qualities of the Buddha. And he gave her an exposition of the Dhamma, basing it on the virtues of the Buddha, the 9 qualities of the Buddha. And when the Dhamma talk given by her blessed one her blessed son had come to an end, the Brahmin woman was firmly established in the fruit of stream entry. And she said, "Oh, my dear Upatissa," so she still referred to her son as his birth name, Upatissa. "Why did you act like that? Why, during all these years, did you not bestow on me this ambrosial knowledge of the deathless?" And the elder thought, "Now I have given my mother, the Brahmin woman Rupasari, the nursing fee for bringing me up. This should suffice." So what he's thinking is, finally now I have repaid, or not say repaid, but, paid. Nursing fee means the effort and the time and the to bring him up from birth up till when he was able to support himself. So what he's thinking is that by guiding my mother, the Brahmin woman Rupasari, to realize and enter into stream entry, I have paid her back enough, is what he's trying to say. And he dismissed her with the words, "You may go now, Upasika." And when she was gone, he asked, "What is the time now, Chunda? Venerable sir, it is early dawn." So yeah, indeed, when the kings of the Devas and the Mahabrahma and all these kings came, they came most likely in the early hours of the morning. And then after that, she came. So by the time she came and left, yeah, it is early dawn. And the elder said, "Let the community of bhikkhus assemble." And when the bhikkhus had assembled, he said to Chunda, lift me up to a sitting position. And Chunda did so. Then the elder spoke to the bhikkhus, saying, for 44 years I have lived and traveled with you, my bhikkhus. If any deed of word or mind was unpleasant to you, forgive me, bhikkhus. So this is a common practice those days and even nowadays. So if before we say goodbye, not only if we're passing away, but also if we're going to leave, before we take our leave, we want to free our mind, so to speak, clear our mind, because sometimes conditions arise, and if we're not mindful, we may say certain things or we may do certain things that we didn't realize cause some unpleasantness. So it's a good practice to say forgive, ask for forgiveness and to forgive, so that, just in case, so we don't have these lingering heaviness, even though we part ways, so to speak. So it's a common practice, even not so common nowadays. But yeah, practice in the Sangha community still. Yeah. So if any deed or word of mine was unpleasant to you, forgive me, bhikkhus. So we can see we've read about Venerable Sariputta before, his qualities and all that. And even as a chief disciple, he never thought to himself like, oh, I am chief disciple and everybody must follow what I say and listen to me. No, he led the assembly of bhikkhus quite differently. And here is one example. He asked for forgiveness from the bhikkhus, and they replied, Venerable Sir, you have never given us the least displeasure, although we have followed you inseparably like your shadow. But may you, Venerable Sir, grant forgiveness to us. So very, very, we can see the relationship between teacher and students, and how that kind of bond, even at this stage. So after that, the elder gathered his large robe around him, covered his face, and laid down on his right side. Then, just as the master was to do at his own parinibbana, he entered into the 9 successive attainments of meditation in forward and reverse order, and beginning again with the first absorption. So going from first jhana, second, third, like that, and then reverse, and then again from first jhana, he led his meditation up to fourth jhana. And then at the moment after he had entered it, just as the crest of the rising sun appeared over the horizon, he utterly passed away into Nibbana element without residue. And it was the full moon day of the month Kartika, which by the solar calendar corresponds to around October, November. The Brahmin lady in her room thought, how is my son? He does not say anything, so she didn't hear anything. And she rose, and going into the elder's room, she massaged his legs. Then, seeing that he had passed away, because there's no response anymore, she fell at his feet, loudly lamenting, oh, my dear son, before this we did not know of your virtue. Because of that, we did not gain the good fortune to have offered hospitality and alms to hundreds of bhikkhus. We did not gain the good fortune to have built many monasteries. And she lamented thus up to sunrise. So she regretted her past actions. So as soon as the sun was up, she sent for goldsmith and had the treasure room open and had the pots full of gold weighed on a large scale. And she gave the gold to the goldsmiths with the order to prepare funeral ornaments. So she wanted to give a very lavish, large funeral. Yeah. Columns and arches were erected, and in the center of the village, the Upasika had a pavilion of hardwood built, and in the middle of the pavilion, a large gabled structure was raised, surrounded by a parapet of golden arches and columns, so very lavish. Then they began the sacred ceremony in which human beings and deities mingled. After the great assembly of people had celebrated the sacred rites for a full week, they made a pyre with many kinds of fragrant wood. They placed the body of Venerable Sariputta on the pyre and kindled the wood with bundles of fragrant woods. Throughout the night of the cremation, the concourse listened to sermons on the Dhamma. After that, the flames of the pyre were extinguished by the elder Anuruddha with scented water. The elder Chunda gathered together the relics and placed them in a filter cloth. Then the elder Chunda thought, I cannot delay here any longer. I must tell the fully enlightened one of the final passing away of my elder brother, the Venerable Sariputta, the marshal of the Dhamma. So he took the filter cloth with the relics, Sariputta's bowls and robes. Then he went to Savatthi, spending only one night at each stage of the journey. These are the events related in the commentary to the Chunda Sutta of the Satipatthana Samyutta, with additions from the parallel version in the commentary to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Okay, so this is how it's kind of told in a story, but it's taken from this sutta, Chunda Sutta here. Okay, so I don't know if, well, we are running out of time today already, but so the next few chapters here is just talking about the story of, but in sutta form, roughly, what we just went through, but a little bit more from a different perspective, Chunda Sutta, and then with reference to Ukachela Sutta, yeah. And then after that, there are a couple of discourses with reference to when Sariputta delivered those discourses. But they are summaries, so not in this book, not like the full discourse. It's just like a not index, like, this is where you can find where he taught this, and this is where you can find where he taught anything like that. So I wanted to check in with, so it's a list, in case those of you who are interested where Venerable Sariputta gave teachings, it's a good list of where. So not only in the, wait, just very quickly, from the Majjhima Nikaya, from the Digha Nikaya, from the Samyutta Nikaya, the different discourses, Anguttara Nikaya, the different discourses that found Venerable Sariputta teaching. Okay, and then that marks the end of the chapter, in the story of Venerable Sariputta. So I wanted to ask a question, at least to those who have dialed in. For the next time that we come together to have a book reading like this, would you like to go through we won't go through the discourses of Sariputta. I think that's just a listing, so people can read this on their own. You have the link to download this book. But do people want us to read together the Chunda Sutta, which is just a little bit of a sutta form of what we kind of went through? Or are people happy for us to continue next time to start on Venerable Mahamoggallana? What do people say? At least those of you who dialed in. Anyone? Would anyone like to comment? What would be your preference? Let me just share the screen again so that it's easier. Share. Here we go. Share. Okay. Oops. Oops. I'm just struggling with this a little bit. Okay.
Can you hear me, May?
Yes, Madam Nanda, yes.
If it's possible, I personally would like you to read the Kunda Sutta next time, if it's convenient. Should be very interesting.
Yep. So, yep, sure. So it's just more like more or less what we just covered, but in this from the sutta itself.
Yes,
So not the storytelling type, but the sutta type. Okay.
yes,
Yeah, we can do that. We can do Chunda Sutta, and then it then follows on the Uka Chela Sutta. So these two suttas are in relation to Venerable Sariputta, and then following that, Venerable Mahamoggalana is passing away as well.
great.
Okay, we can do that next time. Anyone else have any thoughts or comments? No? Okay. So I'm not exactly sure whether we will do this reading next Sunday, but we're trying to I'm trying to check with other with Bhante Dhammagavesi, with other guides, other speakers, their schedule. So we will send as usual, the notification via the WhatsApp group. Okay. All right. So let us share some merit. Okay. Merit. Share. Okay. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you again, those who dialed in. I hope it was useful. We covered many weeks of Venerable Sariputta's life story, his teaching, etc. We will do the two suttas in the next reading. I'm not sure if it's going to be next Sunday or the Sunday after that. We'll see. But I hope it has been both useful and inspiring for your own practice. Wish everyone a pleasant week ahead, many, many smiles, and much loving kindness to everyone. Have a good, happy, healthy week ahead. Thank you so much for dialing in and listening. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a nice